Hello and welcome back, guys. We're now starting a new story, UA's Civil War with Discord, by 2021 Night. You can find author's profile link in the description. Let's begin Chapter 1, Bring Them In. It has been a few weeks since the Civil War activity Nizu had filmed past. Although things are starting to get back to normal, there was a certain green-haired boy, who didn't leave his guard down after everything that happened. He would spend less time with his friends, and started to figure out what the new power he discovered during the activity was. Training together with All Might, helped him control it to a certain extent, and they decided that it would be called Black WHP, as the new power was a black substance that formed multiple shapes of a WHP. One day while All Might and Midoria were training, a black light consumed both of the hero course classes, dragging their home group teachers as well. All of them closed their eyes as the light was blinding, even though it was a dark color. "What the f is going on?" screamed a certain blonde with anger issues. "Where are we?" panicked a tiny person with purple ball fur hair. "How should we know?" a human Pikachu replied. There was laughing in the background. The students looked over to the direction of the copycat in Class 1B. "Look, even those pathetic fools from Class 1A are here. Don't laugh at them, Monoma, that's not manly." Tetsu said, while Kirishima was next to Bakugo nodding his head. "You're absolutely right, bro, Tetsu, why are you defending them?" Monoma questioned while the people around him rolled their eyes. Kendo used her quirk and hit the back of Class 1B's troublemaker while bowing towards the crowd before dragging him away, before he could embarrass their class further. Momo stepped in and all the focus turned towards her. "I think we should back to the topic of why we are all here." Aizawa nodded while sighing. "Yes. It seems that everyone from the hero course is here, apart from Midoriya." Gasps were echoing through the room, as all of Class 1A looked around and found that it was indeed true that the broccoli-haired boy was the only one not present. "Is he the one who brought us here?" Mineta asked. Uraraka shook her head in denial. "He couldn't have. Deku-kun doesn't have that type of quirk." Jiro crossed her arms. "Yeah, but remember that he wasn't supposed to have the black WHP either. Who knows, maybe he did cause this." "Jiro does have a point," Momo stated. "So, Midobro brought us here, but why?" Kaminari questioned as others thought of reasons to why All Might's successor would bring them all there. Suddenly, an unfamiliarly female voice was heard. "No, he didn't bring you here." "I did." Everyone turned their heads around to face the woman who was speaking. She wasn't on the ground, though she was floating a few inches from the ground. She looked pretty young with her short white hair, which contrasted with her black outfit and the black blndfld she was wearing. "Who the f are you?" Bakugo yelled as he pointed towards the newcomer. The newcomer didn't answer him as he scanned the room and nodded to herself. Which got the teachers in the room to narrow their eyes. "Who are you?" Aizawa repeated as he activated his quirk on her, though for some reason, she wasn't landing on the ground. "Me." The unknown female replied as the others in the room were tense and ready for any attacks. She lifted an eyebrow and countered. "Why do you want to know?" "It's because you brought us here," answered Vlad King. "Shouldn't we know the person who brought us here?" Titling her head into a thinking position, the white-haired female shrugged. "I guess, but do you really want to know?" "Ha!" The anger issues of Class 1A exclaimed. "Duh. That's why we asked." "Bakubro, calm down," Kirishima whispered as he held Bakugo back from storming towards the female. Once that was under control, Ida frowned. "What do you mean?" The blindfolded girl smirked. "I guess if you really want to know so much, I should introduce myself." All of the children had their guards up to what was going to happen next. After all, they might be dealing with a villain for all they know. If she was able to capture all of them, including their teachers in one go, then she would have to be pretty powerful. They didn't even know if the other hero teachers know of their disappearance. "It's nice to meet you, UA's hero course students along with the pro heroes Eraserhead and Vlad King. She started with a bow. My name is Beatrice. I am personification of betrayal. With her position still bowing, she lifted her head towards them and saw their widened eyes and jaws opened expressions. She chuckled, which sounded very dark to the future heroes. Vlad King spoke. Okay Beatrice, what might you, who represents betrayal, want to do with us? Standing up into the correct stance, Beatrice put all of her body weight to one leg, making a side of her hip stick out, while resting her hand on that very hip. Well, you see. I've been pretty bored, so I wanted to have some fun. Izuku narrowed his eyes as he spoke cautiously. And what is this fun you are thinking of? Beatrice answered. I have an idea. Why don't I make you all fight each other to the death? Oh. And the winner would be the only one to leave. Wouldn't that be the perfect display of betrayal? Turning on each other and only thinking of yourself and getting out of here. Many in the room paled. Students glanced at each other, thinking what might happen. Many had questions like, can I trust this person, and is there anyone who I can trust if that happens? Beatrice laughed, as she sensed the mistrust in the room, making all of them stiffen up. I mean, we could do that, but there was another option of you reacting to this event I chose. Beatrice said. Which one would you like to choose? The reaction. All of them yelled, minus a few, though the teachers were still ready for battle. They have never seen this woman before or even heard of her. Her introduction of her being the personification of betrayal wasn't good news either. If anything, they were even more cautious of her. It would do no good for her to make them turn on each other, though they aren't even sure what she would be showing to their students. I guess the reaction it is. Snapping her fingers, Beatrice sat on a sofa in the air, while many other couches were spread throughout the room. Sit, we'll have lots of fun. Cautiously, they all sat down in their seats and a black screen appeared. Before the screen could even turn on, a brave student asked the personification of betrayal a question. Excuse me, Uraraka muttered. We have all noticed that all the hero course students are here, though why is Deku not here? While having her head resting on her fist, Beatrice answered. Simple, because he is the main character of the reaction. Silence. Then there was uproar. Did that shitty nerd betrayed us? I knew he was too villain-like to be a hero. Wait, let's not jump to conclusions, he wouldn't betray us. How would you know? This is the personification of betrayal, what else would she make us react to besides him betraying us? Deku wouldn't do that. You never know Uraraka. He hid the fact that he was All Might's successor for so long, what else could he be hiding? Does that mean that All Might's be training a future villain, or even worse, an actual villain? Having enough of the useless chatter, Izuku screamed above them. Enough. At once, all the students quieted down. They all faced the tired hero as he sighed. Can't you see that this is just going to break your bond with Midoria? Can't you even see that she is trying to get you to doubt each other? She's finding this amusing while you all blame Midoria for something he hasn't done. Don't jump to conclusions. The students all looked up to find that Beatrice was looking down at them with an amusing smirk dancing on her lips. Wow, just that and you all start to doubt him, Humans truly are awful. Most of them all looked down in shame, while there was a question that cut through the newfound silence. What do you mean that we're awful? Mineta asked. Suddenly, there was laughter. Beatrice threw her head back as she continued to laugh by herself in the silence. What do I mean? I mean that humans are truly awful. Can't you tell by yourself? There was only continued silence, as Beatrice answered her own question. You humans have started war, discriminated others for their quirks or lack of them and kill each other without a second thought. You are evil enough to create living personifications of the 7 deadly sins of pride, greed, lust, wrath, gluttony, sloth and envy. That's how much it has appeared in humanity. You even created me. The personification of betrayal. Lots of humans betray each other, but I must thank you. Because of your race, you have created me and my fellow sins. We created you. Indeed, you did. Beatrice confirmed. The silence only continued throughout the room with the revelation of them creating people that were personifications of humanity's wickedness. Seeing that no one else had anything to say, Beatrice let her amusement die down and leaned back onto the sofa she was sitting on. Moving on, shouldn't we start to reaction? Beatrice announced. Though, I did speak the truth of Izuku Midoriya being the main character to our reaction. But don't worry, you're all in there as well. No one spoke, but Beatrice didn't care and started the scream. Watch and react. Chapter 2, The Start. Midoriya's POV. The noise of confusion was let out by Kaminari, slowly snapping back into their normal states. This is Midobro's point of view. Jiro, also snapping back as well as the others, rolled her eyes. It already says that idiot. You don't need to be mean about it. The human Pikachu pouted. Today we were all going to the assembly hall because Nizu wanted to address a situation that happened, but no one had any idea what it was. Class 1B was also heading over to the assembly hall and there were a few whispers thrown around the room once we all got there. Some of them I could hear. Does anyone have any idea what the hell is going on? Whispered the human Pikachu, Kaminari. Nope. Answered Pikachu's best buddy, the rock, Kirishima. How are we supposed to know? Zero questioned. I don't know. I thought you actually paid attention in class. Kaminari stated. Zero replied, they didn't even tell us what they would be talking about. Now that you know, calm your butt down. Oh, sorry. Kaminari apologized. Oh. This was when Nizu was announcing the Civil War activity. Exclaimed Zero, remembering the conversation he had with his brothers. When the mention of the Civil War that Nizu planned was called out, all of the students shivered remembering those toxic green eyes staring at them when they were being killed. Is the activity what are we going to react to? Momo questioned as she stared at the screen. Ida nodded. I guess so, though I don't understand why she would want to show this to us. I mean, she might be the personification of betrayal, but she should also have a nice side too, right? Mina stated as she thought watching the activity wouldn't be as scary as participating itself, especially with all those moves Midoriya was pulling off. We don't know about that. Karo Azui replied as she felt that there was something more happening than what they think. I turned back to my group of friends and Uraraka was all pumped. Ida tried to calm her, while Azui was just watching with Todoroki. I thought about all those years of torment and discrimination and how I didn't have any luxury of having times with my friends after I turned 4. I felt so isolated back then and I didn't trust anyone for my own good. Society is awful and they don't know what I have been through. They didn't know how the weak felt because they all had a quirk which could keep them high in society. People never notice the weak and helpless, but once I become a hero, I will change society for sure. Silence stilled in the room. Midoriya, the kid who always smiled brightly in their class, didn't have friends after he turned 4. He didn't trust anyone for his own good. Does that mean that he didn't trust them? Does Deku-kun not trust us? Uraraka asked with a heartbroken expression on her face. Todoroki shook his head. He said back then, so he probably meant in the past. So, he must have trust in us now. Right. Uraraka said. You're right. He can trust us. Mina started. His point of view on society is pretty dark. Tokoyami ended for her. Very dark. Though his goal is admirable. Sato commented trying to lighten up the mood in the room. Kodai sighed. But to have said that all in first person, means that he must have experienced the worst part of our society. Bakugo was oddly quiet, which only Kirishima and Aizawa took notice of. Both of them were glancing towards him. Only to see that he was blankly staring at his hands. Seeing this, both of them frowned, but only Aizawa planned to talk to him about his stranger reaction after they leave the room. Continuing with the conversation, Pony added, "But don't heroes help those who are weak and in need?" Aizawa was brought into the conversation when he sighed. "Yes, but there aren't always heroes there to help. Don't forget that heroes are also human." "Indeed, they are." Beatrice agreed, while all their heads turned towards her. "Some have bad thoughts and intentions, some are consumed by their greed for fame and power. There are many who turn a blind eye to those who are truly need help, there are a few that betray their comrades and leave them behind, so they are able to survive." Many students paled. Did heroes that they aspired to be, really do those things? Many were doubting their choice to become heroes. If there were heroes like that, who knows how far they would go to achieve whatever they wanted. They didn't want to die because they were betrayed by a person they trusted to have their backs with. Nobody in the right mind would want to die. Seeing as though there was nothing else to say, Beatrice focused on the screen in front. "When I finished having my thoughts, a white chimera of a dog, bear and mouse came up on stage and started his announcement. Good morning students of the hero course. I have gathered you here to assign an assessment for you all," Nizu started. People groaned at the word assessment, but Nizu continued, "But it won't be a written one, but an activity. There will be 2 teams. One is the heroes and the other are the villains." I could hear people whisper about how they didn't want to be on the villains' team, but of course, we were all going to train to become heroes. Who would want to be villains, which we had to fight to protect this awful society? There will be a leader for each team. For the villains, once the leader is down, the heroes win. Just like in the real world where the villains only have the will to fight when their boss is still standing. For the heroes, once the leader is down, the activity will continue. There are rule books are for the leaders to read, and after the assembly there will be a Q&A for the leaders to ask me any questions. Now or the leaders for each team. Everyone in classes 1A and 1B were listening careful. For the leader of the heroes is Katsuki Bakugo. Man, was that a shock. Kaminari stated, trying to brighten up the depressing mood. The Katsuki Bakugo, Class 1A's anger issue boy, becoming the leader of the hero team. Some in the room giggled to the blonde's comment, successfully bring the mood up a bit. "Tell me about it bro," the whole room was loud because of that shock. Kirishima added, with Tetsu nodding in agreement. I couldn't even hear myself think. Somewhere in the background there was a shout, Tetsu can think. Which brought laughter throughout the room and a shouted of annoyance from Tetsu in offense. The assembly was in uproar. People shouted that it should be changed, and that Bakugo should be put in the villain team. We chose him for a reason and now for the villain's leader. Nizu calmed the crowd, the leader is Izuku Midoriya. I was shocked. Me a villain. Us too Midoriya, but you were a scary, but awesome villain. Shoji muttered. Shota from Class 1B agreed. You know, I never thought he could be that scary until that happened. Many in the room nodded while shivering. Who would have thought that the boy who was always smiling happily could kill us all in 3 days? Komori questioned as she remembered watching the screen in the dead hero's room, watching the whole fake city being engulfed in flames. Imagine him really being a villain. Tsuburaba said as many in the room shivered once more. Shiozaki clasped her hands in a prayer, while Kaminari and Siro followed her lead. She closed her eyes, and it looked like all 3 of them were having this divine light on them. Let us pray to God that will never happen. People didn't even think I was dangerous, not anymore Midobabe, not anymore, since I was quirkless and stuff. Silence, what? Midoriya was quirkless. Wait, he clearly has a quirk. How is he quirkless? That can't be right. We saw his quirk and he had another one pop up out of nowhere. Ignoring all yelling and shouting in the room, Beatrice continued watching. I could hear the gasps and whispers in the assembly hall. People started to back away from me, even my friends. I turned my head around looking into people's eyes and I saw the one thing that always reminded me of my past, pity. Something in me bubbled and I felt like I could explode, but I continued to listen to Nizu. Ouch. Kurwaro winced. Seeing it like this, it does look pretty bad. With you all backing away from him right after Midoriya was announced the villain team's leader, it would definitely hurt his feelings. Beatrice rolled her eyes. Of course. You can say what he was feeling was betrayal. Is that why we are watching this? Kaibara asked. Because Midoriya was feeling betrayed by our actions. Yep. The white-haired girl confirmed as she lifted her legs up to the sofa she was sitting on. Now continue watching. Now the teams are on the board, but you can change teams if you want. People started to look at the board, but people didn't want to be villains, so they moved to Kaken and away from me. Everyone from Class 1A and B were on Kaken's side, leaving me alone. Even my friends went over to the other side. I would have thought that at least one of them would be on my side. It was like this in middle school as well. This is nothing new. I thought, and it is the truth. Silence entered the room again. Beatrice sighed as she watched the participants in the room. How many times are they going to stay silent when they learn something new? That reaction was getting a bit boring now. After all, their reactions of silence have already happened like 4 or 5 times by now. It seems that we have messed up. Todoroki spoke with his monotone voice. Uraraka nodded. How could we just leave him by himself? We should have stuck with him. Ida pushed up his glasses. I guess we know for next time then. We'll be on his side then. Karo, when Nizu saw the teams of 39-1 he spoke up. Well, this won't do. Midoriya can't be on a team of just himself. Now can half of you mov no, it's okay Nizu. I don't want you to force anyone into becoming my teammate. I just have to work harder, I interrupted him with a bright fake smile plastered on my face. It says that he was plastering a bright fake smile on his face, though I can't see any difference. Hagakure muttered. Did it look off to any of you? Everyone shook their heads. It seems that Midoriya contains darkness within him. Tokoyami stated as he saw nothing wrong with the smile Midoriya was giving Nizu on the screen. Momo's eyes softened but held sadness within them. How many times did he have to perfect that smile? To make a smile that no one noticed that nothing was wrong. What type of life did he live before we all met him to have a bright fake smile? No one answered her, though Bakugo was the only one who was not facing her, and once again his teacher noticed that was the case. If anyone knew what Midoriya's life was before, it would be him. They were childhood friends, and even went to the same schools throughout their life, as their mothers were close friends. Are you sure Midoriya? Questioned Nizu. I answered back with the light in my eyes gone, but instead there was only rage. Yes, I am sure. Lots of people stiffened at the look in Midoriya's eyes. It brought back nightmares of the toxic green eyes that they saw in the Civil War. They held so much anger. They didn't know who that anger was aimed at, though now they have an idea to who the target was. It was them for turning on him just for a simple activity. It was aimed towards the world for letting him suffer. It was aimed towards society itself, for making him and others like him to have been discriminated and judged. Nizu hesitated before agreeing and handed out the rule books, of which were 500 pages thick. After handing the book, I saw Kaken skim through the book with a disgusted look on his face and close the book after 5 minutes of flicking through. While, I on the other hand, read the 500-page book repeatedly to find loopholes and marked them. By the time I finished, I was the only one in the assembly hall and it looked lonely, but I was used to this. I closed my eyes and the book while waiting for Nizu to call me. Then, suddenly on the speakers were the words I was waiting for. Midoriya, it is your turn for Q&A. Bakugo, you should have at least read through the whole book. Momo scolded as she frowned when Bakugo only skimmed through it. Not even reading it. She didn't ask him to study the rule book, but at least read through it. None of your business ponytail. Wow, the broccoli boy is really taking this seriously for trying to find loopholes and mark the pages, while reading through that thick book. Tokeichi said, knowing that she would have probably done the same thing as Bakugo. Jiro twirled her earphone jacks. I mean, it is 39 against 1, so he would probably need all the information he could get. Yeah, but I would never do that, even if I was by myself. Mineta confessed as she rubbed his head, which was hurting just thinking about all the rules he would have to remember. Nizu's POV, it seems that this doesn't only show Midoriya's point of view. Koda whispered to himself. I was surprised to see that no one would even join Midoriya's team and him just accepting it. I asked him if that was really what he wanted, and after seeing that he only had rage in his eyes, gave me the shivers. Look. Even the principal thought that the look in his eyes were creepy. Rin exclaimed. I agreed and handed the rule books that I made myself, but I only say Bakugo skimmed through it in 5 minutes. While Midoriya looked through the rule book and seemed to be having thoughts and deep thinking about it. I smiled to myself, knowing that someone actually was reading the rule book thoroughly after all of the years of doing this activity. Wait, you have done this activity before? Shishida asked his homegroup teacher. Vlad King nodded. Yes, we have. Was there a scarier and brutal one more than ours? Hananuki questioned. Aizawa grinned. Nope. Your one was the most interesting one yet so far, Nizu had said. Bakugo only asked about damage and other stupid questions that would have been answered if he had read it thoroughly. Many groaned. Why would you only ask about that? Ojiro put his head in his hands. We're heroes, so we shouldn't be the ones causing damage, you know. Shiro nodded. That's the villain's job. Are we sure that Bakugo wasn't supposed to be the villain team's leader? Aizawa sighed. Yes. He was supposed to be the hero team's leader, not the villain's, doesn't seem like it. Tsunatori whispered. Monoma was laughing at the back. Even the principal thought his questions were stupid. By the time I finished that Q&A, Midoriya was still looking through the book, but he had some folded pages. I didn't mind, but I really want to know what he was thinking. When I saw that he was waiting for me to call him, I turned the speaker on and told him to come. So do you have any questions which I need to answer? I asked. Midoriya stared straight into my eyes and I felt a shiver. I realized that the light in his eyes were gone and had been replaced with anger and rage. I turned to All Might, as he was in the Q&A as well, and I noticed that I wasn't the only one that noticed Midoriya's eyes. Still get the creeps from seeing it again. Aoyama shivered. Yes, I have a few questions, Nizu and All Might, but before that there is an important question I must ask before them. Okay, continue, All Might said. Midoriya continued, I will be the only villain in this activity and I plan to do things differently, unheroic, unfair and dirty. I found some loopholes in rule book, so I will ask about them later, but the real question here is, after hearing about what I said before, will you still be with me after this activity is over? After I teach the hero course lessons through brutal and cruel ways that might cause them trauma. So, he was planning to give us trauma from the start, squeaked Mina. Aizawa shook his head. It's not about giving you trauma, it's about knowing that his actions were going to cause trauma, which you might face in your hero careers later on. Vlad King nodded. It's best for you to have it now than later. Later it would affect your careers, but if you have them now, we would be able to help you, while these memories might help you get stronger mentally. Heroes not only have to be strong physically, but also mentally. It's a job where you don't know when you will die. You might have to see each other die right in front of you. Though if that does happen and you won't be able to push through, you would be broken and be very troublesome to be put back together. Not everyone has the time and patience to do that. Aizawa added. Overall, thanks to Midoriya, you would get that help sooner than later and you would have some less affects when something like that happens in real life. All Might and I were silent, but then All Might sighed and spoke. Of course, my boy. I broke your dreams once and am happy that I made up with you and that you are my successor. I think that maybe teaching it the brutal and cruel way might help the future generation of heroes and give them good lessons. It is better for the trauma to be now than later. They will surely push through, and if they outcast you later on, I can always move us to a different school and train you to your fullest. Everyone in the room was in disbelief. All Might, the symbol of hope, had actually crushed the dream of the brightest boy in Class 1A. That can't be true, but All Might said so himself. Kirishima said darkly. It's one thing if Midobro had said it, but with All Might admitting it, it has to be true. But why? Deku-kun only dreams to be a hero. Why would the number one hero, who said anyone can be a hero, crush his dreams? Momo spoke up. Remember how they keep mentioning that Midoriya was quirkless? Maybe that was the reason why. If you're quirkless, then how do you think people expect you to protect them with a quirk you don't have? You're only putting yourself and others in danger because of it. If what you're saying is true, then how does Midoriya have a quirk now? Todoroki leaned back in his chair while staring at the ceiling. I don't know. Momo admitted. Remember, this is only a theory and a guess. I added my support. I agree with All Might. If they don't get it now and overcome it with the help of teachers, it may end their hero careers later on. So, you have full my support, and if needed I will help you in finding a new school later on. The teachers nodded their heads, understanding where the Chimera was getting at, while the students were sighing, now knowing the reason why their principal and their teachers decided to let Midoriya continue with his traumatizing ways of killing them off. There was a pause. Wait, was Midoriya planning on leaving straight away when we react badly to what he had done to us? Sato pointed out. Todoroki frowned. Does he really think that badly of us? Vlad King sighed. That's not it. You kids need to understand that his actions in the activity was like a real villain. Even though he knows it's for your own good, that won't stop people from hating him. People, after all, hate villains because of the damage they make and the lives they take. Which was what he was supposed to do. Yanagi commented. Exactly. Vlad King said. That's why he thought that you would hate him. Also, because heroes would have to work with each other, they can't just exclude each other out, which leads to why the kid wants to go to a new school if you do end up excluding him. It would be the best option for him. Midoriya looked up to us and we saw a single tear roll down his face. There was light coming back into his eyes, but the rage didn't disappear completely. Midoriya smiled towards us and wiped the tear away. That being said, Midoriya, I must ask, why was there a lot of anger and rage in your eyes? Midoriya's eyes started to dim and it looked so lifeless. I don't like that look. Uraraka muttered. Ida replied. None of us do. He looks so different. Mina stated as she couldn't remove her eyes from the lifeless ones of the bot who seemed to bring the sunshine in their class. Too different. All Might was worrying, but Midoriya said that he would tell us about his full past, since I already knew about One for All. What's One for All? Who knows? I was curious about how Midoriya's quirkless life would have been, but I was not expecting what happened next. Midoriya explained his hardships and past with all the discrimination and bullying. Once we found out that his main bully was none other than Katsuki Bakugo. Bakugo. Is it true? Everyone turned towards the usual angry blonde, who was now looking at the ground, while Beatrice looked at the crowd with interest. How would he answer? Since Bakugo didn't answer, the yelling continued. They took his silence as guilt. How could you do that? Why would you do that? That's not manly. What did Midoriya ever do to you? With multiple questions springing at him, Bakugo gritted his teeth and seethed in anger. He knows that he was wrong, so they didn't have to rub that in his face. He already apologized to the nerd, so shouldn't everything be fine? He didn't need to see all of their disappointed and disgusted looks they were throwing at him. He hated the situation he was in. Surprisingly or not, Todoroki was the one who broke of all the questioning. You guys shouldn't be too HRD on him. All of their classmates faced the bi-hair colored teen. Why? He bullied Deku-kun, you know. I know. Todoroki nodded. But he has already apologized to Midoriya and he has already forgiven him. But dash. Todoroki glared at them. It's not up to us to who Midoriya forgives and who he doesn't. It was his choice, and we should respect that. We shouldn't be doing this. If Midoriya really wanted us to do this, he would have told us and the teachers months ago. After getting the message across, students slowly returned back to their relaxed state, though some were not happy having a bully within the hero course. This was what future heroes who betray their comrades and turn a blind eye to those who are truly in need start out. Bakugo let out a breath of relief, which he didn't even know that he was keeping in. Though, it was caught in his throat when he heard Aizawa state, "We will talk about this after we return." All Might looked like he was about to kill someone, which I thought was funny. After the little backstory, Midoriya looked better, maybe it was because he never shared this with his friends, but slowly changed when Midoriya started to ask questions he wanted for the activity. Midoriya found a lot of loopholes and I could tell that this year, the heroes won't be able to win. This will be interesting. As I was planning of recording this event, Midoriya suddenly asked, "All Might, can we make a video of when I met you on the rooftop? I want to expose society." "Of course my boy." At this point I was wondering about what the rooftop things is, but I think I have a theory on what it might be, since Midoriya was quirkless. If it did happen, I am glad that Midoriya didn't go down any of those paths, but I should be prepared for what might happen after the event. Japan would be doomed if Midoriya really turned into a villain, wouldn't it? Ojiro weakly chuckled. Fukudashi replied. Forget Japan, the whole world would be doomed. Bondo nodded. If it only took him a few days of planning and 3 days to actually kill all the heroes in the city, while destroying the city itself, imagine what would happen to the world when he has years of planning and years of putting that plan into action. Kaminari shivered. It would not be pretty. That's an understatement. Jiro stuttered. Beatrice looked at their reactions and thought about what was going to happen next. Most of the big reveals have now already happened, as now was just the activity they had to watch, which all of them had watched at most twice, because they participated in it and when they watched it to review the mistakes they made during it. The personification side. This would be the most scene where they would react the most, which was sad, though, you never know. Maybe there were better reactions to come. Chapter 3, Getting Ready. Midoriya's POV. Oh look, we're back to Midoriya's point of view. No need to state the obvious, dude. Right, sorry, today is the first day of preparations out of the 4 days that Nizu gave us. I have been running up and down everywhere getting ready. It is really hard of preparing everything in only 4 days, but at least classes were cancelled for the week, since there are 4 days for preparations and 3 days for the actual activity. All of Midobro's planning was great. After all, he really did take down 39 people with only himself. Mina cheered. You're right, Kiri. I guess since there were no classes on those days, it made it easier for him to plan. Hagakure nodded. Imagine the stress he would have if the classes weren't cancelled. That would be very difficult. Koda whispered. Kendo sighed. Yes, that is true, but what did we even do during those days? We did nothing. Awaze answered with his head down in shame. While Midoriya was planning his actions, taking us seriously and thought of how to counter us, we did nothing and thought we would win automatically because of our numbers. That was very arrogant of you. Aizawa stated. You should never underestimate your opponent, even if they seem outnumbered and weaker than you. Remember that. Yes, sensei. I see all the other team's members all just resting and not evening planning. Many in the room groaned watching their past selves just having a normal day while the broccoli-haired boy was doing his best trying to get everything done. Beatrice snickered, while hearing the noise in the room. Just before I headed to the support course classroom, I heard Kaken yell that they could just beat my butt, which we didn't do. Shouted a person in the crowd. But I don't think that it will be that easy. What was Midoriya exactly did? The same person yelled. We get it. Tetsu screamed. You don't have to rub it in, okay? I plan to go wild and even use this as an opportunity for going beyond my limits. Gulp, I mean, he really did, didn't he? Kaibara weakly chuckled. Kamakiri nodded. Yep, was it me or did he seem stronger than before? He seemed stronger. Tsuburaba replied as he had flashbacks to the fight between the remaining two heroes. He did surpass his limits and got stronger. Komori butted into the conversation. But did we get any stronger? There was no sound as everyone in the room thought about their progress after the activity. Thinking back on it, they didn't seem to improve. Most of the reason for this is because over half of them didn't even engage in battle. They were just saving bots and didn't fight the villain leader, as they were taken out before they could. After a few minutes of silence, Tokage broke it. I guess that's a no. I mean, what do you expect? Momo asked. We didn't even get the chance to fight back. How were we supposed to improve if we didn't even engage in battle? Kaminari pouted. If only we were able to fight with him head to head. Yeah, but then it was disadvantaged for Midoriya. Jiro explained. There were 39 of us and only one of him. He wouldn't last, so he did the method he chose. Eliminating us one by one without confrontation as much as possible. Vlad King crossed his arms. You did get progress of your mentally for hero work, so you can count that as a win. I guess. Many whispered in disappointment, as they wanted to actually fight in the activity instead of being killed from behind or any other dishonorable methods. After getting my costume and support items I would be using, such as 10 small daggers, 2 hand knives daggers, 1 handgun and a sniper, along with some paint bullets. Oh. My. God. Mina said as she covered her chest where she was stabbed. That knife was the weapon that killed me. Hagakure also covered her chest where her heart was. That gun. It was the one to kill me. Sato sighed. I think it's safe to agree that Midoriya was very good with handling those weapons. Some voiced their agreements, though many chose to stay silent. I saw my normal friend group walking around the school like there was no event. I walked towards their direction and Uraraka was the first to notice. Deku-kun, do you want to come hang out with us? We were planning of going to a cafe near the school. Yeah, you should join us, Midoriya-chan. Kero, Azui added. The Deku squad faced away from the screen, knowing that they shouldn't have done what they were doing on the screen. They were ashamed with the behavior that they displayed on the screen. I rolled my eyes mentally knowing that I have to continue to act like my normal self. Midoriya rolling his eyes. Zero gasped. Him having to act like his normal self. Kaminari continued. Is the world ending? They asked in unison. Jiro deadpanned. No, it isn't. This has already passed, and the world is still here. Momo frowned. But for him to try and pretend to be his normal self. How would we know if there was something bothering him? I mean, do we even know the signs for when there is something bothering him? No one answered. Beatrice spoke up. Heh, you don't even know when he's bothered or not. Such wonderful friends you are. Aoyama glared. You don't have to rub it. Oh, but I do. Beatrice gave them a sadistic smile. Do you even know the real Midoriya? How do you know that he's not faking it all the time? What would happen if the Midoriya you thought you knew was just a lie? Before anyone could counter the blindfolded person's statement, Aizawa said. Don't let her get to you. Remember, she is the personification of betrayal. She may want us to betray Midoriya or something, so don't listen to her. Beatrice leaned back in her sofa. Boo, you're no fun, Eraserhead. Aizawa just narrowed his eyes towards her. Sorry guys, but I have to get things ready. I bowed. I have only 3 more days and I still have so much to do. Todoroki questioned, are you sure? I think it is better to just give up, Midoriya. You have numbers against you, and wouldn't it be better to just give up? The whole group faced Todoroki and there was a moment of silence. Did he really think I didn't have a chance at all? Did you really tell him to give up, Todoroki? Momo questioned with disbelief. Todoroki only turned his head away from the group, while Beatrice's laughter was heard, bringing their attention to her. You know, he felt very betrayed in the moment. Beatrice revealed as Todoroki flinched. He thought you of all people would be able to understand his determination to win. After all, at the sports festival you named him your rival. Ida stated, Todoroki, if Midoriya just gave up, the teachers would not be able to give us feedback and grades for the activity. I gritted my teeth behind a bright fake smile and agreed with Ida. Todoroki and Ida winced as Midoriya on the screen gritted his teeth. You don't normally see that happen, though if you did, it was because he was in pain. It was surprising for them to have not noticed their friend's anger, though they had to admit, the green-haired teen's smile made it seem like there was nothing wrong. I shouldn't have told him to give up. Todoroki muttered while he clenched his hand. On the screen, when he told his friend to, it made him seem heartless. Midoriya was putting in all his effort to try and beat them, but he had just told him that it would be all of nothing. Ida had his face casted down. I shouldn't only think of the activity, but also his struggles. As well as Todoroki, the screen made Ida seem to care about his grades more than one of his friends. To get to the point for the small boy gritted his teeth and had to put on a fake smile, they really shouldn't have tried to discourage him, but support him instead. Forget about that, you're shitty extras. Bakugo spat. That's the F past and there is no way to turn it back. Just focus on making it up to him. Either F way, you should know that shitty Deku would never give up. It's the annoying part of him. This time it was time for Kirishima gasp. Did Bakubro really say that? I know, right? The human Pikachu said as he as well as everyone else in the room had their eyes widened with shock. The Katsuki Bakugo, who calls them shitty extras and bad nicknames, as well as have anger issues, tried to comfort their class leader and the bi-haired colored teen. That was new. Who are you and what have you done to Bakugo? What the FIS that supposed to mean? Ah, there he is. Kaminari exclaimed with a teasing smirk. After that little conversation, I excused myself for the group and Todoroki's words were starting to repeat in my head. I will prove that I will go plus ultra and make people fear if I was a villain. Fukudashi gulped. He sure did make us fear him. Hananuki agreed. We all still have to go to Hound Dog's session because of the whole thing. I still get nightmares because it. Admitted Shoda as he started to get cold sweat from remembering memories he had experienced which haunted his dreams. During the first days of preparations, I learned how to handle a gun and knives. I went through all the notes of all the classmates in Class 1B that I took about their quirk, such as their strengths, weaknesses, and how to take them down, even though I already memorized them, but it's better to double-check. I gave some analysis to Nizu, so that it may help other heroes take down some villains on the loose. Wait, he has what? Shoji questioned. Bakugo paled as now he was remembering those cursed notebooks of his. The people around him were noticing his decreasing skin color, which had Kirishima's curiosity. Bakubro, is something wrong? The anger issues of Class 1A scratched his head really fast with both hands. I completely forgot about those cursed notebook. Azui raised a brow. What about the notebooks? Kero, Bakugo looked at all of them with seriousness in his eyes, making others gulp, as there was no anger in them as there usually were. Deku has multiple notebooks, which all of your shitty extras have seen. The blonde explained. In those notebooks, there are analysis of many heroes and villains. Their quirks, their appearances, their fighting style and more likes and dislikes are all in those cursed notebooks. All of them sweat dropped. Until Shiozaki said, isn't that good, we would be able to defeat villains better that way. Bakugo grunted, sure, whatever. But the point is, it's been a long time since you all have met the shitty nerd. Do what makes you think that you're not included in his database that he has in his notebooks. That's creepy. Uraraka voiced out. Exactly. The angry blonde pointed to her. Then he shivered. Now he knows our strengths, weaknesses, fighting styles and unnecessary information that I don't even know how he got. He also has multiple ways of taking us down, so we don't go rouge and try to kill people. Monoma stuttered. So, you're saying that the broccoli has multiple ways to kill us, just in case we turn rouge. Bakugo nodded, making everyone in the room pale. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Panicking, Zero suggested. We should get rid of those notebooks. Good luck with that. Bakugo replied as he knows what happens to those who try and get rid of the nerd's precious notebooks. Aizawa added. I'll just take them away with using my authority of his teacher. The students clapped for the tired hero, happy that they would be able to take those terrifying books away from Class 1A's cinnamon roll, though it was more like cinnamon roll now. Bakugo shook his head. If you forgot what he said before on the screen, he has it all memorized, it wouldn't make a difference. The happy mood reverted back into the dreaded one. While in the corner, Mineta whispered, remind me to never PSS of Midoria. After a few minutes of silence, Rin tried to break the mood, by saying, hey, it said that he learned how to wield a knife and gun in the days of preparation. He's a fast learner. Bondo groaned. He learnt that so he could try and kill us all quickly. Bondo's comment made the mood in the room darker than before, though it seemed like a certain white-haired female was enjoying their reactions. I trained my quirk, ate and slept. That was pretty much how the days went. That doesn't really seem to be some eventful days. Kendo awkwardly said to relieve the tension in the room, and she was grateful, when Momo continued with her statement. It truly seems like some boring days. Now that it was the last day of preparations, I had to set up the fake city we would be using for the activity. I putted on my villain costume and it was pretty much a suit though. Ah, the very same costume I see Midobro wear in my dreams. Kaminari stated dramatically. More like nightmares. Tokoyami whispered under his breath. Shishida nodded. You know, the Civil War activity ruins the image of Midoriya ever wearing a suit for me. Tsunatori agreed. I can never unsee the image of Midoriya-san in a suit killing people. That's just sad. Ojiro replied. Imagine, if we all are invited to his wedding, where he is wearing a suit, all we see is the villain we saw when he was brutally killing us left and right in an UA activity. It's supposed to be a happy occasion, but all I would see would be the red paint all over his suit like it was. Hagakure shivered, along with all the students in the room. But you have to admit, he does look kind of hot. Mina piped. Hatsum wanted to talk to me about a new invention she made, so she saw my costume and commented on it. Wow Izuku, you look great on that villain costume. It makes you look like you're ready for business. Exclaimed Hatsum. Thanks, but I have to go to the fake city and plant some of the inventions you created. Hatsum's eyes glittered and replied, oh yeah. Use my babies as much as you like. I can never forget the humiliation I faced during the sports festival because of those inventions of her. Ida cried as he held his head in his hands, reminiscing over that battle. In the background, students who never met the young inventor in the support course questioned, did she really just call her inventions, her babies? Sure, well I better get going Hatsum. I'll see you later. I said as I walked out of the room and closed the door, hopeful, I whispered. After hearing the word, hopeful, after the young hero said he would see her later was saddening for the friends who held Midoriya close to them. It was like he was expecting them to react badly, which they know the reason to now, though they still didn't like how he assumed that they would hate him. I walked over to see Nizu and All Might in Nizu's office and they saw me enter. My boy, All Might called out while standing, you look like a villain indeed. How are the preparations going? Everything is going as planned and I'm ready to go the fake city to set everything up. Nizu butted into the conversation and spoke, that's great. Then we can go tomorrow. Okay, well then, I will be going to the dorm and rest. Nizu and All Might looked confused and All Might asked, "Why young Midoriya, it's only 10 a.m. All of them were confused, as they had the same expressions of Nizu and All Might in the screen. Why would he sleep so early? I explained, I was planning on staying up for the whole 3 days, so that I won't be able to give the heroes any rest. Of course I will sleep tomorrow, but it's better to get it all now. So, that's the reason. Momo muttered. Kirishima laughed. He truly didn't give us any time to rest. Mina cried. My sleep. My precious sleep. It was scary to have felt that you were stabbed, only to stare into toxic green eyes when you open your eyes. Kodai said, as she remembered suddenly waking up with a hand covering her mouth in the darkness. The only thing she saw was glint of the dagger Discord was holding and the lifeless eyes he had. Truly terrifying. With our sleep being affected, we wouldn't have the energy and we wouldn't be at our greatest potential. Todoroki reasoned with a hand on his chin. That was very clever of Midoriya. He even thought that part out. Kendo nodded. Again, since it was 39-1, he needed to grab all the advantages he could get. Still, I wanted my sleep. Mina exclaimed. Nizu and All Might nodded their heads and I headed towards the dorm. Once I got in the dorms, I saw that no one was there, but I didn't care. I was tired and headed towards my dorm. When I enter, I closed the door and changed into my normal clothes, setting up things that I might need in the activity on my desk, like my villain costume. I laid down on the bed and I instantly fell into a deep slumber. The next morning, I woke up at 6:30 a.m. and I started to get ready for the day ahead of me. Once I finished, I quietly rushed to get to Nizu's office. I managed to get out without making a sound. Aizawa-sensei should know that I would be with All Might and Nizu getting the fake city ready. After reaching the fake city, I immediately used one for all at 25% and rushed around the city to place all of the inventions I got Hatsum to make. I went through the city and noticed that there was one place where I couldn't place any bombs in. It had to be the hero's HQ. I deleted the building that I used for that actual story and I couldn't find it on the internet, so yeah, this is the building now. But you could stick to the old one if you like. I'm so glad that he didn't plant any bombs in the building. Awaze said. Imagine if he did. He would be able to get rid of all of us in an instant. Aizawa groaned. That's not the part of the exercise. It was supposed to display your teamwork, but since it turned out like this year, it was more about hero mentally and mistakes that heroes shouldn't do. I decided leave that place alone and it took only a few hours to set up the city and I think that it would be all ready for tomorrow. I went to find a random bed in one of the fake houses and slept in it until the event started. The one thing I thought of before I let my drowsiness caught me was fear Discord of the Misfits. We really do fear Discord. Karo Gita started his arm movements. Indeed. How could we not? Let's just be glad that there is no Discord in reality. Ojiro sighed. Truly. Yanagi agreed. It would bring disaster. Yep, Discord should just stay in our nightmares and nowhere else. Tetsu added. The girl still floating from the ground with her sofa questioned, are you sure about that? Bakugo glared. What does that F mean? Beatrice sighed. What I mean is, if something pushes Midoriya into the path of villainy, Discord will become reality, no. The students paled. We must never let that happen. The personification of betrayal giggled. Let's see about that. Chapter 4, Big Reveal Heroes POV, look. It's our point of view. The hero team made it to the fake city and there seemed like there was nothing wrong with it, but little did they know what was waiting for them. Mina looked around studying her surroundings and asked, so, where do you think Midoriya will be? Momo answered Mina's question, we don't know, but let's start and look for him, right Bakugo? Yeah. Do whatever, but when you find that shitty Deku, just beat him beat. Like that ever happened. Midoriya was too quick for us. Shoji said. But maybe not for Ida, though that's only for flat ground, not jumping off building to building. Azui pointed out. We didn't even see him. Kero, teacher's POV, oh, it seems that there is also the teacher's point of view. The perspectives are changing more quickly than before. Momo wondered. Jiro suggested, maybe it's because us searching isn't that interesting, since we didn't really find him. Right, the only time we did ever find him is when he attacked us. Kendo added, disappointed in herself that she didn't even find him, until they were being killed one by one. All of the UA teachers were in the observing room to watch how the students would do and were expected to stay in the room until all 3 days were up, or when the event ended. You were really planning on staying in that room for that long? Asked Aoyama. Aizawa grunted. Yes. We had to watch and grade you while you were doing the activity, noting the areas which you needed most help in. Though it was more like a one-sided massacre with how Midoriya executed his plans, which didn't really help point out where you needed improvements in. Vlad King assessed. Nizu was sipping his tea while the teachers were making bets towards which team would win. You were betting on us. The whole room seemed to scream. Aizawa rolled his eyes. Midnight started it, while the other teachers followed along. That's not manly. Kirishima and Tetsu stated in unison. Bakugo clicked his tongue. TCH. It doesn't matter if it's not F manly or not. Being manly has no F relation to the bets. Still Bakubro. Kirishima repeated what he had said before. It's still not manly. I bet the hero team will win. Midnight exclaimed. Vlad King replied, isn't it the outcome clear? Past me was very stupid. The outcome was the very opposite of that. Vlad King face-palmed. Kendo patted her teacher on the back, while weakly chuckling. To be fair, no one actually thought that one person could take down 39 people in a week. It's because it's not a normal person can do. Yelled the copycat. Tetsu stated. Midoriya is just not a normal person then. He's a manly person. Bakugo groaned in the background. There's 2 of them. Afterwards, Bakugo added. What does being manly have anything to do with this? Because manliness is the best and Midobro has clearly showed us that he is manly. Red Riot chimed in. The anger blonde rolled his eyes. Whatever. No, it isn't. Young Midoriya hasn't given up yet, and when there is the willpower, there is always hope. All Might commented. So, you are betting on Midoriya, All Might? Asked Aizawa. Yes, I am. Of course he would bet on his successor. He would be pretty bad if he didn't. Todoroki's monotone voice echoed throughout the room. If he didn't, then it shows that he has no faith in his student. Mina pouted. Yeah, but the favoritism. Yeah. Hagakure shouted. It practically oozes out of him during our classes with All Might. Aizawa nodded. He had noticed the obvious favoritism that All Might always show the broccoli boy, which he knows everyone in his class has also taken notice since day one. It was still surprising how none of them had thought of the idea that Midoriya was All Might's successor with all the signs fully displayed for them to all see. All Might wasn't even hiding it well. Well, the successor part was sort of, though all the signs were in front of them, it was just they were blind and didn't come up with that conclusion. But the favoritism was right there. Where everyone could see it. Nizu joined into the conversation. Yes, I also think that Midoriya is going to win. All of the other teachers were confused why the intelligent chimera chose to place his bet on Midoriya, when he is outnumbered, but slowly their attention moved towards the hero's action of getting into the HQ. That's what we thought, but hey. Midoriya surprised us all by turning the tides. Tell me about it. We were too confident. Exactly. Aizawa lectured. You shouldn't have underestimated him, even if you think he's weak. In reality, people can hide their real colors, though with villains some tend to show off how strong they are, while others tend to hide their true strengths. Those who do hide their true strengths are the most difficult to deal with, as we didn't have any information. Heroes POV, us again. Okay, we get it. You don't have to keep mentioning it when the perspectives change. Boo, you're no fun. Now everyone on the heroes team was moving towards their temporary home HQ for the activity. Ida noticed that there was something in front of the door and it looked like a DVD. That disc. Ida picked it up and handed it to Todoroki. I found this in front of the door. What do we do with this? Ida asked, pointing to the DVD now in Todoroki's hand. Mina snatched it from Todoroki and shouted, well, there is only one thing we can do with it. We have to play it. Mina quickly played the DVD on the TV in the HQ, but it was not what they were expecting. The DVD had a pre-recording of Midoria. I wish we never did listen to that disc, you know. Kaibara told Awaze. His friend agreed. That was the start of our nightmares. Everything started from that disc, and whenever I start to have a dream about this event, it would always replay that DVD. Midoriya slowly spoke with venom. Everyone in the room shivered. That was the voice they never want to hear again. That tone was the only tone they could hear from Midoriya whenever they think of him speak. Sure, it's slowly going away, but you can't expect it to go away so soon. I pray that we will never hear the voice to Satan ever again. Shiozaki put her hands together and closed her eyes as she said that. Kodai nodded. I would also not want to hear that ever again. As well as those lifeless and toxic green eyes. All of them couldn't agree more. Beatrice was in the background throwing grapes into her mouth as she lazed on her sofa watching the screen. She didn't understand why they didn't like this type of voice. Lusha, the personification of one of the 7 deadly sins, lust, would have thought of that voice, and those eyes were hot, but what do these humans know? Hello heroes. I am Discord of the Misfits and this city's villain. I advise you to leave this place at once or suffer the consequences. But some people must be wondering why I am villain. Well, shall I explain it to you? It's simple. It's because this society is so unfair and corrupt. Now, for my backstory, it all started when I turned. That was when my whole life changed. Even though this was the 3rd time of hearing this exact speech, they couldn't get over the context of it. For a child's life to change at the age of 4 was something no one should have gone through. Of course, it was under the assumption of that change being bad. After all, he did say that it was the reason why he became a villain. The heroes were on the edge of their seats wanting to know more about their classmate and fellow hero course student Izuku Midoriya, while Bakugo was panicking about what Midoriya was about to show and tell them. Midoriya continued, I was a late bloomer, so I was called quirkless until the start of the UA exam. So he was a late bloomer. And it was until the UA entrance exams. No wonder he didn't have a control of his quirk. The home group teacher of class 1A muttered. He had thought that the green-haired child was lazy before he entered UA and didn't bother training his quirk. Though to find out that the same kid had only gotten his quirk before the exam was concerning. If he didn't have a quirk by then, did that mean that Midoriya was planning on entering the exam without a quirk? Although that is admirable, it was stupid. The UA entrance exam was mainly based for those who had attack-type quirks, which was something Aizawa disliked about the exam. After all, people who had similar quirks to him had no chance of completing those types of tests. Anyway, with the lack of his quirk before the entrance exam, it does explain his lack of control and how he keeps on breaking his bones every time he used it. Now, if only he stops breaking his bones, then Recovery Girl will finally be off his back. So, image how this twisted and horrible society treated me. Some people might think that society tried to protect me, but how wrong they were. People treated me like an outcast, a different race that was lower than them and a worthless, little Deku. Right, Kaken? Is that true, Bakugo? Uraraka asked as she turned towards the said person with tears in her eyes. Bakugo couldn't even look in her eyes, so he faced away, which gave the crowd his answer. A tear slid down the anti-gravity girl's cheek as she didn't want to imagine how her friend put up with all the injustice around him. He said that his life changed at the age of 4, so does that mean he was suffering for 12 years? Thinking back at the first time they introduced themselves properly, she had called him Deku. If she had known that nickname was something that caused her best friend to suffer, she wouldn't have called him that. Though, it at least brightened her mood a bit, remembering that she had changed the meaning of that nickname which Midoriya was called all his life. While Uraraka was thinking about that and the other students thinking about how society is really cruel, the tired hero self-blamed himself. As an underground hero, he should have seen the signs about one of his students' dark past. For God's sake, he had seen those types of issues when he was patrolling. The kids who seemed to the happiest were always the ones who were hiding something. Parents harmed their kids because of their quirks. May it be because they were weak or too dangerous, which were called villainous. It was utter bullshit. It's up to the person to how you used it. Take Bakugo's quirk for example. In reality his quirk could be helpful against villain attacks, which can be called a great and heroic quirk, but if he was a villain, he would cause the most damage. Those explosions can kill people and leave them disabled. Society was really brutal and cruel, but as heroes, it was their job to protect it. At the mention of his nickname, people turned towards Bakugo, who was still listening intently to the DVD that Midoriya had sent them. I was so weak in people's eyes like my mother, which didn't believe that I could be a hero, and my childhood friend, who thought he was better than everyone and everyone was below him. No believed me and thought I was just a bug in their lives. Even All Might told me that I should give up on being a hero. Midoriya said while playing the scene of when All Might and himself on the rooftop and All Might telling him to give up on his dreams because he was quirkless, but in some realities All Might caught after me after trying to help someone who was getting attacked form a villain, saying that I could become a hero. After that he trained me after noticing that I have a late quirk blooming, but some other realities, he didn't and I became Discord. But that wasn't the only reason why I became a villain. All of the hero team's members gasped at this. They didn't know what to think of the symbol of peace in that moment. They saw a pre-recording of the symbol of peace, All Might, the #1 hero crushing Midoriya's dreams. You know that it's still unbelievable that All Might crushed his dreams. Shoda said. I know, but with All Might admitting it himself before, it's the proof to tell us that it's true. Tsunatori spoke while fidgeting with her fingers. Komori admitted. I know, but still. I don't blame Shoda-kun for not believing it as the truth, because I wouldn't either. Why do you think like that? Vlad King questioned. Is it because he's the #1 hero? The symbol of peace. Bondo sighed. It's because he's the #1 hero. I mean, who would believe it when the hero who always encourages the younger generation to do their best, tell her that he can't become a hero? Aizawa took a deep breath in. We understand, though some people to blame could be a big figure or someone you least expect. You shouldn't allow those types of things influence your judgment and your way of thinking. That mistake could be the last mistake you do. Understand? Yes, sensei. The students replied, not really knowing how they should feel about what they had just heard. Teacher's POV, it was deadly silent, from the shock of All Might crushing Midoriya's dreams like it was nothing. All Might broke the silence with the comment, it's scary of how close discord could have been formed. It's too close to my liking. Koda said underneath his breath. Ojiro nodded. I know. Japan, no, the world, would have been doomed if it really had happened. Beatrice sat up. Did you know there are universes where Izuku Midoriya is an actual villain? What? That can't be true. That shitty nerd is too hung up on saving people. No way does he ever become a villain. Yeah. Midoriya would never be a villain. The white-haired female laughed at them. Well, he did. In those universes he didn't have as much willpower than this Midoriya, or when the bullying was too much, or even when he had no one to support him. There are many universes where he becomes a villain. In fact, 40% of them, is where he is a villain, while there is only 15% of him becoming a hero. Hearing what the personification of betrayal had to say, it made faces pale. 40% of the world's Midoriya was in, he was their enemy, society's enemy, a villain. Sad, really. Beatrice softly placed a hand on her cheek. Though, thanks to those worlds, there is a lot of negativity, which is great for people like me. It can make me stronger, but enough about me, let's move on. What do you mean, All Might? Explain. Aizawa shouted after hearing that his own student had his own dreams crushed by the person he aspired to be. Well, it is exactly how you heard it, but in this reality, I was able to meet young Midoriya again and train him 10 months before the entrance exam. All Might explained. Thank God for that. Muttered a person in the crowd, really glad that this was their reality, instead of a villain like Discord coming into their world. They hope that will never happen. Nizu spoke, and I am glad you did. If you didn't, he could have went down the path of chaos and then the world as we know it would be gone. Ojiro groaned. I bet it would be. What do you mean, Nizu? Asked Snipe. You will find out during this activity, Snipe. Answered Nizu. Hero's POV, the video of Midoriya continued. Well, now another reason why I walk on this path of chaos is because of school. Bullies physically and mentally tormented. The teacher would turn a blind eye and quirks were used on like I was some kind of dummy. But there was one person who always bullied me and encouraged others to do the same. He even told me to take a swan dive over a roof and pray for a quirk in my next life. Midoriya laughed manically, and at the last part he had such a cold and demonic voice that made the heroes shiver right down their spine. That's sick. How could Midori suffer so much? Tell me who those people are and I'll beat them up for you, Deku-kun. To bait someone into suicide is not manly. I'm so glad you ain't in nothing like that. His name. Oh, I'm pretty sure that you all know him. He is the famous Katsuki Bakugo. Silence. Bakugo, Kirishima whispered as he looked at his self-proclaimed best friend, in horror. Please tell me it isn't true. The usual angry didn't answer as all the heads in the room faced towards him. He couldn't look any one of them in the eyes, knowing what he had said before was wrong. This time though, his fellow Hero Course students wouldn't take his silence as an answer. Bakugo. The broke red head screamed. Tell me it isn't true. The blonde could only shut his eyes as he muttered. It's true. Silence filled the room, before disgusted, angered, and disappointed expressions spread rapidly throughout the room. Some turned their heads away from him, refusing to acknowledge him, thinking that this was something he deserved. Why did a bully, whose suicide baited a person, enter UA, a school for heroes? Why Bakugo? Why? Kirishima stuttered, with a heartbroken expression, but he didn't have an answer. Monoma frowned. Even I know better to not suicide bait someone. Aizawa sighed disappointedly. Bakugo, we should talk about this later. The said teen could only nod his head in the silence. Meanwhile, Beatrice could only smile, feeling the betrayal everyone in the room was feeling, due to this discovery. Now shall we continue with the event? Also, this video has been played through the city, but never mind that. Let the game begin. The DVD stopped playing and people turned towards Bakugo for answers, but he didn't pay any attention to it because he was still in shock of Midoriya calling him by his full name with a demonic and cold voice towards him. It was the first time that Midoriya called him by his full name. Bringing back the commentary in the room, Kaminari joked. Hey, I'm so happy that Midoriya never said my name like that. Zero weakly continued. Just hope that he never would. Teacher's POV. While teachers were watching the heroes HQ turn into chaos, some were frozen from all of the surprises that Midoriya had revealed and some felt pity for Midoriya now knowing his past. You know, this explains a lot about how he reacts to Bakugo and how he kept breaking his bones at the start of year when he used his quirk. He couldn't control it. Midnight voiced out. After hearing about his past, I think it would be better to have him have some sessions with me, so that he will be mentally alright. But I think we must separate Bakugo from Midoriya. Hound Dog suggested. Agreed. Everyone in the Deku squad replied in unison. Sato put up his hand, gaining the attention of the people in the room. I know we all go to Hound Dog's sessions, though have we seen Midoriya go to his sessions too? I don't think so. Tokoyami stated. Does he even take the sessions? He does. Aizawa answered. He has his session right before dinner every Monday. That's good, I guess. Jiro commented while fidgeting with her earphone jacks. Though I haven't noticed, and I can guess that no one else in our class noticed as well. Momo nodded. It shows how good he is at hiding stuff. Todoroki let out a breath. Let's just hope that the other things that he is hiding from us isn't dangerous that can harm him or us. Nizu reassured the teachers, don't worry, All Might and I have had a talk with him and he seems to be fine, but you might need those sessions for other students when this is all over. What do you mean by that, Nizu? Asked Recovery Girl. I have given Discord my permission to teach the heroes lessons through the brutal and cruel way of a hero's job. It is better to do it now than later, since while they are still in this school, the teachers can help them overcome the trauma that might appear. Better now than later since the LOV is still targeting Class 1A. Nizu responded. I see, I might have to save those sessions then. Hound Dog concluded. And we're so glad you did. Rin exclaimed, knowing that everyone in the hero course were taking those sessions, thanks to the stunt the villain Discord did in their activity. Hound Dog really is our savior. Chapter 5, It Began Heroes POV, Bakugo, is what Midoriya said is true. Yep, it is. Red Riot muttered dejectedly, still not wanting to believe that his best friend had done that, even though Bakugo had admitted it to them. Was Midoriya treated like how he did? Yeah. Todoroki answered with a bit of frustration in his voice, as he was mad that others decided to treat his first friend like that because he had no quirk. Now he understands why Midoriya was angry at him for only using half of his quirk in the sport festival. Midoriya was a kid who had no quirk before entering the hero school and was constantly mistreated because of it. For someone like Todoroki, who only used half of his quirk because he thought his left side was his father's, he would never understand the feeling. No one in the room could truly understand what the green-haired teen had been through. Maybe some could understand it to an extent, but he definitely didn't understand how it felt. Midoriya was giving his all, while Todoroki was planning to half-butt his way through his high school days and his hero career. No wonder the small boy was so angry at him. But because of that, Midoriya was the one who unleashed his flames, allowing him to accept them. For a great person like Midoriya, who gave him salvation in his own flames, how could society and the world treat him like this? How are you still in this school if this was true? We don't know. Tetsu stated, feeling bitter that someone unmanly like Bakugo was able to enter the school for heroes. That's a mystery. Added Hananuki with a deadpanned expression. Is that how you started to call Midoriya, Deku? Shoji shook his head. That wasn't nice. Midoriya isn't useless. If anything, he is really helpful. Do you know how many times he had saved us from the villains, when they suddenly attack? Azui nodded. He saved me and Mineta at the USJ. He saved me too. Uraraka added. At the entrance exam. If he didn't destroy that robot, it would have crushed me. Don't forget Eri. Kirishima cheered, remembering the cool way the emerald-eyed teen had saved the little girl, though he was trying not to remember the death of Night Eye. Tokoyami joined in. Koda too. Remember his arms. Many winced remembering how injured his arms were. It was impressive how he was able to keep fighting in his state. Even though they were unable to stop Bakugo's kidnapping, they prevented Tokoyami's. Ida started to do his arm movements. He even saved me with Todoroki. Many people looked at Ida in confusion. Some titled their heads as they stared at him. When did that happen? Kaminari asked. Ida started, remembering how they weren't supposed to talk about Stain. Before Endeavor came, Midoriya spotted Stain about to kill Ida, so he stepped in, but not forgetting to send his location. I was able to get it and I was with Endeavor, therefore we were able to make it in time, while my old man defeated Stain. Todoroki fluently lied. Wow! Many gasped in awe. Midori really is a good person. Mina cried out. You're also lucky that you were able to make it on time. Who would have known what would happen if you were late? Hagakure frowned. Nothing good. Kirishima interrupted all the questions by saying, we don't know if it's true or not. I mean, he even said that All Might crushed his dream. So, it might be fake, right Bakubro? The mood dampened again. It's not fake, past me. Poor Midori. Mina stared at the screen sadly. Everyone was waiting for Bakugo's answer, but instead, they all heard an explosion and saw civilian bots running around. The villain Discord had exploded an apartment building, which had 13 civilian bots in it. The hero teams went into their friend groups and spitted up to rescue the bots from the fire and put it out. Third-person POV, Discord was on top of building in front of Heroes HQ, and followed the group of Momo, Jiro, and Hagakure. He was there from the start. Hagakure exclaimed. Jiro frowned. DMN it. I should have heard his footsteps. The past is the past. You know, for next time. Momo comforted while patting Jiro's back. They were searching the area for any dangers and were alone but were having a normal chat. Momo then sweat dropped. Okay, we shouldn't have had a normal chat while we were doing this. We were too confident. You should always be on guard, though it's good to know that you know your mistakes. Aizawa lectured. Discord pointed the snipe he had towards Hagakure because it would have been a bother of not seeing a person, so while she was still wearing her hero costume, which looked like floating clothes. By invisible girl. He whispered and Jiro could hear it, but before she had time to say anything, Discord shot Hagakure in the heart. DMN, that was fast. Whistled Kaminari. Hagakure glared at the human Pikachu. I would like to see you do any better. The blonde only raised his hands in surrender in response, knowing that he wouldn't have been able to react to that shot quickly. Again, I should have heard him. Jiro cursed. I'm sorry Hagakure, you went down because I wasn't able to hear him. The invisible girl shook her head. Even if you were able to hear him, I wouldn't have been able to dodge the bullet, so it's fine Jiro. But I am disappointed in myself that I was the first one to go. Looking on the bright side. Ojiro started, it seems that Discord found you as a threat, as it is difficult to fight a person who you can't see. That's a plus, since he thinks as you as dangerous. The teenaged girl could only smile in reply. Thanks, but yeah, that's a good thing out of being killed first. At least he thought as me as dangerous. She continued to tease a bit. Doesn't that mean he thinks I'm more dangerous than everyone in the room here? What? No way. Tetsu gasped. I could beat you. Hagakure raised a brow. Would you if I had all my clothes off and you couldn't see me? There was hesitation in the metal man's answer. Maybe. So, you're planning on fighting and hitting a girl who is naked without any protection. Mina joked. How naughty of you Tetsu. Laughter echoed throughout the room as Class 1B's metal man started to look like a tomato. Though, there were sounds of slapping when the girls heard Mineta's comment. I wouldn't mind fighting her naked. The perverted grape had said. This didn't get unnoticed by Momo. She created a shield large enough to fit her and Jiro, but since Discord took out the person who he thought would be troubling, he moved on to people with long range or sensory quirks. Jiro was in front of him, but she was protected from him by Momo's shield, so he had to get her later. Good quick thinking and reaction Momo. Uraraka gave her thumbs up to the mother of her class. Momo only blushed, while Jiro turned towards her. Thanks for the save Momo. Without you, I would have probably been eliminated there. Jiro stated. The woman in response only shook her head and hands as she refused. No, you don't have to thank me. It would have been the most logical answer to help a friend in need. We needed heroes to capture a villain, and seeing how fast Midoriya was able to one of us, I didn't want to see another friend covered in BLD, though it was just red paint. Still thanks. The purple-haired teen said. Moving on, Kamakiri pointed out something. It said that Midoriya was planning to get rid of those who had long range and sensory quirks. Awaze nodded. It makes sense. From all the battles I have seen him in, his speciality is close-range attacks. So, long-range attacks would be an obstacle for him. He wants to get rid of the sensory quirks because they could sense where he is. By getting rid of them, he had the higher chance of an ambush and had the element of surprise. Kendo added. That broccoli had a lot of surprise attacks. Monoma mentioned. They worked because we didn't have the people who had sensory quirks in the game, which worked in his favor. The two home group teachers only listened while agreeing to all of their students' reasoning. Midoriya had a well-thought-of plan. He struck them while they were being arrogant and too confident. By doing so, he was able to get rid of those who he deemed as a threat, leaving those opponents he thought he had the greatest chance to fight against. Ectoplasm later took Hagakure into the dead room where she would continue to watch the activity for the rest of the time, until it was finished. Discord jumped to roof with one for all at 35%. He saw Shoji with Tokoyami and Koda on a rooftop facing the other way. Oh, it's our turn. Tokoyami groaned, remembering how his capture led to many deaths in the hero team because they all went to check the situation. Discord took out his handguns in each hand and aimed towards Koda and Shoji, while still jumping onto roofs. How did I not notice this? Shoji whispered. Ojiro comforted. You didn't have an ear or listening. You wouldn't have been able to notice him without it. So don't blame yourself too badly. I know, but I should have made an ear to sense him. Now you know for next time. Let's just all keep our guards up, no matter how calm the situation seems to be. Once Discord had his targets locked, he shot the paintball at the same time and killed both Shoji and Koda at the same time. Koda started to rub a part of his neck, which was where he was shot. Even though it wasn't a real bullet and just a paintball, it didn't feel nice to be shot. He hoped he would never get shot with a real bullet in the neck ever. After hearing the gun shot, Tokoyami turned his body towards the sound he heard it from, which was behind him, and summoned Dark Shadow. Though once he turned around, he didn't see anyone, but Dark Shadow did. Discord was right below them, running close to the floor. Before Discord could stab him, Dark Shadow protected Tokoyami. Thanks, Dark Shadow. I didn't even notice him. Thank Tokoyami. Hagakure exclaimed. Don't worry, I'm pretty sure no one did. Still. Tokoyami deadpanned. Let's just say, we all just need to up our game for next time. Kodai stated, with many of her fellow classmates agreeing with her. Dark Shadow gave a thumbs up and replied, no problem, but DMN, Midoriya could become an assassin with those quiet moves. Aoyama shivered. He would be a fabulous assassin. Are we sure that he's not secretly an assassin? Siro squeaked. Aizawa sighed. He's not an assassin. How would you know that? Kamianri questioned. Aizawa deadpanned with a look that gave him, are you serious? Because it's all the results of his hard work during the preparation days. There are camera recordings of his training for these moves in the school system. And let me tell you, when he was first trying these moves out, it was not even close as cool as shown on the screen. Vlad King's sweat dropped remembering all the failures and mistakes the kid was doing while training. He, along with many other teachers, watched what Midoriya did during the preparation days, wondering how he was able to gain victory for a battle that was 39 against, thanks. Discord said as he ran towards Tokoyami again at 35%. Discord dashed round in circles around Tokoyami, trying to get him dizzy, and it worked. Tokoyami getting dizzy and started to fall towards the ground and land on his butt. Ouch! Kurwaro winced. That should hurt. It did. responded the raven-headed teenager. And I wanted to throw up with how dizzy I was getting. Ew. Mina said. Dark Shadow, also getting dizzy because he was also trying to keep track of Discord, fall along with Tokoyami. Not the best situation you're in now. Tokage stated. Now you're defenseless and open to all of his attacks. I know, no need to tell me. At that moment, Midoriya rushed towards Tokoyami and knocked him unconscious. Dark Shadow returned into Tokoyami and Discord tied Tokoyami up, while Ectoplasm took Koda and Shoji to join Hagakure. Yangi sweat dropped. So, instead of the hero capturing the villain captured the villain. That's not how it's supposed to go. Fukidashi screeched. But that was the situation. Yangi countered. I know, but still. Suburaba butted in. It would have been better if Midoriya was the hero, while Tokoyami the villain. It would have made more sense then. Rin shook his head. But that wasn't the reality of the situation. Midoriya was the villain, while Tokoyami was the villain. Hush. Discord pressed the backup button that Tokoyami had, alerting his teammates that he was in trouble. Discord quickly found a place to hide, leaving the button behind, since it has a tracker for the heroes. Once finding a good spot, Discord set up his rifle and waited for the other heroes to arrive. He was watching us the whole time. Ida facepalmed. Momo pursed her lips. We should have known. After all, Tokoyami was tied up and he wasn't killed. It wouldn't make sense for Midoriya, whose goal was to eliminate all of us, to let one of us live and only tied up. Todoroki nodded. Now looking at it, it pretty much spells trap. And a trap it was. Komori added. After 5 minutes of waiting, Discord saw all of the heroes head towards the roof where Tokoyami was tied up unconscious. Once all the heroes were on the roof, Discord quickly to aim at Tokoyami as people were discussing how and why Discord did this and not just kill him off like Hagakure, Shoji and Koda. We should have guessed that he was nearby. Kirishima sighed, noticing their mistake. He had seen how they all let their guard down, even though one of them was tied up and unconscious. It was shame on their part. Teacher's POV, after watching Discord shoot Hagakure and retreating, the teachers were confused of why he wouldn't just kill the rest of the group. Nizu thought out loud, maybe he wanted to teach them more lessons with the other members of the group. A depressing atmosphere entered the room of students. We've had enough lesson, thank you very much. Hananuki muttered, remembering all the chaos the green bean of a human had caused, with the reason of teaching them, so they would be ready for the real world, when their hero careers take place. Maybe, but what is he going to do now? Doesn't he have to get rid of all of the heroes before the 3 days end? If he is going at this rate, he won't complete his task. Present Mike questioned in confusion. Just watch Mike, because I think Problem Child may be doing something after. Aizawa told Mike he did. Kirishima commented. He totally did. Emphasized Kaminari by repeating his best bro's words. All of us had to watch when Tokoyami was killed right in front of our eyes. Siro stated with a so done look. The red paint did really look like BLD though. Praised Kaibara. I know, that made things more realistic. Rin gulped. When the teachers saw Discord sneaking up on the group of 3 boys and readying his handguns, while pointing the guns to Shoji and Koda's heads with a calm facial expression, they knew he would kill them. Once they watched the one-sided battle unfold, and the tying up of Tokoyami, also the pressing the backup button, Niza knew what he was going to do next. Why would he press that button? Mike yelled. To bring us over. Every student in the room deadpanned. Everyone covered their ears, while Aizawa cancelled his quirk halfway the question. The heroes made their way towards Tokoyami and Discord was already aiming to his target. It is quite simple, Present Mike. He plans to kill Tokoyami while the heroes are watching, making them lose some of their will to fight. Nizu explained. Just like 1Q, Discord shot Tokoyami in the neck, killing him with paintball. Did that kill our fighting spirit? Asked Tsunatori. Bondo nodded. Since the paint looked very realistic and the fact that Tokoyami was unconscious in the first place, made it seem like he was dead. Knowing that could also happen to us, was also not good for our fighting spirit. Aways explained. No one wants to die. Even though we all knew that we wouldn't, since it was an activity, it still doesn't get rid of all the fear. Midoriya was successful with that. The heroes turned towards the direction it came from, but before anything happened a small grenade was thrown at them and exploded red paint to the people who were to close. The grenade eliminated Aways, Hananuki, Shishida and Kurwaro from Class 1B and Jiro, Sato and Mineta from Class 1A. The people who were mentioned in the screen twitched, remembering how it felt to be taken out with a grenade. It wasn't a good feeling. You know, it's pretty lucky that he got Jiro and Shishida out with that grenade. Sato pointed out. I mean, out of everyone, he had eliminated 2 people who had sensory quirks that he was planning on taking out. I know what you mean, but have you considered the angle he was throwing the grenade at? Azui brought up. Huh. Azui explained. He could have thrown it harder or softer, making it completely miss those 2, but with how hard he threw it, he was able to reach those 2. Also knowing Midoriya, if he wasn't able to eliminate those 2 with one grenade, he would have found another way to get rid of them there. Momo continued. It could be that he had another grenade and he would have thrown it or maybe even shot them, like he had done with Hagakure, Tokoyami, Koda and Shoji. He would have seen how we positioned ourselves and shot Shishida or Jiro first if they were far apart. After that, he would have thrown the grenade to the user of a sensory quirk who was surrounded with the people he considered dangerous compared to the others. Kendo added, understanding where the other 2 females were getting at. Azui nodded. Exactly. So, it wasn't really luck. Kero, what? That was overkill for a hand grenade. It took out 7 people. That's 11 people today. Present Mike screamed. Believe us, it's unbelievable. It really was overkill. At least those were the less brutal way to get eliminated from that civil war activity. MMN, that the way he killed me and others when we were sleeping was scary. Poor you. Aizawa replied, well, it was the heroes' fault for not checking the area for traps and stuff. They had Shishida who could have smelt Problem Child and warned the other heroes, also all the heroes shouldn't be there for backup. Yeah, maybe we shouldn't have all gone there, Kendo said. Shiozaki nodded. Again, we will know for next time. Kodai stared at the screen. Just keep all of the tips for next time and make sure we learn from them. We don't know what will happen if we don't. Maybe Nizu will make Midoriya teach us a lesson all over again. Suggested Shoda. All of them paled at the thought of doing the activity all over again. It was an experience that none of them ever want to go through with ever again. Having that thought in mind, they started to restate the lessons that they have learnt from the Civil War in their heads. Heroes POV, after the grenade, the heroes saw green lighting surrounding a person was running away at a fast speed, which they couldn't catch up to. Again, Ida should be able to catch up to Midoriya if he was running on the ground. Mina complained. Monoma rolled his eyes. That's why he chose to run or jump, however you want to call it, on the rooftops. He knew we would have a disadvantage with speed if we were going to run on the rooftop. There was silence while everyone in the room were comprehending what the copycat had said. Monoma said something smart. Oi, what's that supposed to mean? How could we lose 11 extras after just a few hours of playing this dumb activity? Shouted Bakugo. Jiro glared at the anger blonde in the room. We aren't extras, Bakugo. Unlike usual, Bakugo didn't even respond. Calm down, Bakubro, we were just not ready. Kirishima reasoned. We were definitely not ready. I mean, what did you expect? We didn't even use the time given to us to prepare for the activity. I guess, you're right. Now I wish we did. All of the heroes headed towards their HQ for rest. In the middle of the night where most of the heroes were asleep, explosions happened. My beauty sleep! Aoyama exclaimed in despair while doubling over. Our sleep! Mina exclaimed with the same energy, while everyone in the room groaned, remembering how hard it was doing the activity without their own sleep. While that was happening, Beatrice was once again laughing in the background at their misery. Chapter 6, Explode Heroes POV. Everyone in the HQ groaned at the sounds of the explosion. Midoria, no Discord, just had to blow up more bombs in the middle of the night, when they were all supposed to rest and gain energy for tomorrow. That's what we were supposed to do, but no. Mina whined, still not happy with the lack of sleep she was getting from the activity. Midori just had to make things harder for us and blew up multiple buildings. Mina, we get it. Ida spoke up. You lost hours of sleep and you're not happy about it. Just stop complaining about your loss of sleep. Mina narrowed her eyes at her class representative. Never. The heroes that were sleeping quickly got ready to head out to the danger. There were 4 places that were in ruins and Bakugo started to yell orders. Okay, shitty extras, there are 4 places that Deku blew up, so split up into groups, but leave 4 extras behind to patrol around the area for shitty Deku. Put out the blasted fire and save the god DMN bots. Jiro once again glared at the usual angry blonde. Again, we aren't extras. We're humans just like you, Bakugo. At this point, formed their own groups. The groups were, first group, Bakugo, Kirishima, Shiro, Mina, Kaminari and Nojiro. Second group, Uraraka, Todoroki, Azui, Ida, Momo and Aoyama. Third group, Kendo, Monoma, Komori, Tetsu, Kodai and Yanagi. Fourth group, Shota, Suntory, Suburaba, Fukudashi, Tokage and Shiozaki. Patrolling group, Kaibara, Kamakiri, Bondo and Rin. Aizawa sighed. You shouldn't have just partnered up with your friends. You should have partnered up with people who had quirks that worked together with each other. Although, there were some combinations that were good, you could have done better in this area. Don't just partner up with friends. Lives are on the line, and it gives you the advantage if you partner up with people who have quirks that go well with your own quirk. Vlad King summarized. Yes, sensei. The places were in 4 different directions. The first group headed north, the second went south, the third went west, and the fourth went east. The patrolling group walked around the areas where the heroes weren't covering. They decided to split up by themselves to cover more ground, but little did that know, Discord was right on their trail. He was there. Of course. How would he be able to get all of us on the patrol team without following us? But still, I didn't notice him. Did you? Did you? No. Then. Still. To know where we were and the timing of when we're alone to strike. It was obvious that he was following us. Group 1's POV, we're going to see the point of views of the other groups too. Rin questioned. Bakugo's group were running towards the blown-up business building in the north. The building at least had 30 levels and there were civilian bots in all of the levels. Bakugo, Shiro and Kirishima ran into the building in caution. There was a lot of the ruins and damage the blast caused to the building. Mina, Kaminari and Ojiro evacuated all the bots near the building to a safer place. Mina was yelling to the civilian bots to move out of the way and pointed the way of the evocation. Ojiro and Kaminari helped the civilian bots who were under the rubble and got them to safety. The teachers nodded in approval. Good job of controlling the situation. The said people in Group 1 faced towards the teachers and thanked them. Thank you, Sensei. Bakugo and his small group ran up the stairs and saw civilian bots. Kirishima and Shiro grabbed 5 bots each and headed back down outside, leaving Bakugo by himself, but he didn't mind. All he could think about was why Deku went out of all the trouble of setting up bombs in the middle of the night. Bakugo stayed on his guard thinking that Discord would target him next, since he was the one of the so-called reasons why he turned into a villain. After 2 hours, Bakugo and his group finished putting out the fire and making sure that the bots were safe. Later, the group headed back to the HQ early in the morning. They were all tired and wanted to get into their beds, but Bakugo was filled with anger. Deku had the nerve to wake him up in the middle of the night, and not even attack him. Really? Are you serious? You're angry at him because of that? When then they got back to the HQ, they found something unexpected. Of course, it's Midoriya after all. Claimed Sato, knowing that Midoriya was one unpredictable fellow. Group 2's POV, oh. It's our group. Cheered Uraraka. Todoroki's group headed to the building, which was huge. It was collapsing and civilian bots were panicking. Momo, Aoyama and Ida calmed the civilian bots and took them far away from the building, while Todoroki froze the whole building and supported it with ice, so the building wouldn't fully collapse with the bots in it. Uraraka, Azui, and Todoroki went into the building to search for civilian bots. Uraraka would use her quirk on them, and Azui would wrap her tongue around them and carefully drag them to the ground. Great teamwork there, guys. Cheered Mina. Thanks. Uraraka blushed, while Azui just nodded. In a wondering tone, Kaminari said, imagine how much easier we would have had if Todoroki was in our group. That would have been a lot quicker, and we might have gotten some sleep. Zero replied. If only. Kiri sighed. This is Midobro we're talking about. He would have had another plan. Right. Of course. It's Midoriya we're talking about. Todoroki on the other hand made a staircase of ice for the bots to walk down toward safety. Like Elsa from Frozen. Exclaimed Mina in awe. Elsa. Todoroki frowned in confusion. Who's that? Many heads snapped towards him, startling the poor teen. You don't know Elsa? Mina screeched in horror. No. That means you haven't watched Frozen. You know, the film about a princess who became a queen, who also was the only one who had a quirk in the movie, while everyone else was quirkless. She had an ice quirk and she couldn't control it, so she was hunted down. You know that film? Mina questioned. No, Todoroki repeated. Mina gasped. We have to make you watch it. Hagakure nodded. Maybe he can do the ice castle like in the show. We have to try it out. Exclaimed Kaminari in excitement. With the conversation continuing, Todoroki was getting more confused, though he did want to try and build an ice castle that the invisible girl was taking about. Suddenly, Aizawa fake coughed. No one is building an ice castle on my watch. Boo. The trio said in disappointment. Todoroki was also disappointed, but he wasn't showing it on his stoic expression. Everyone was still tired, but they had to continue their work. When everything was done and they were heading back to the HQ, they were the group there, but after letting their guard down, they heard a gunshot. Red paint hit its targets, killing Momo and Aoyama. The rest of the group faced towards the building in front of them and saw on top of the roof was Discord holding 2 handguns. Not a second wasted, Discord ran in the other direction and headed west, leaving behind the Deku squad, in shock. You guys keep letting your guards down. Aizawa grunted in frustration. You should never let your guard down, until you're absolutely sure that you're safe. Even on your way to HQ, you never know when a villain might ambush you, which was exactly what Midoriya did. Sorry sensei. All of Class 1A muttered, fully knowing their mistakes and how many they had made because of letting their own guard down. Aizawa puffed. He knew that this was a common mistake that happened throughout the activity, but it still got on his nerves. This common mistake would have taken lives of his students in the real world, which even though he wouldn't admit it out loud, he didn't want to see any of them dead. Though, with the continuous attacks of the LOV, he didn't know how many of them would end up becoming heroes. May it be because of trauma, disability, or worse, because they were dead. Teachers' POV, the teachers were woken up to watch the group's rescue and put out the fires caused by Discord and commented on how they solved the situation. Wow, Todoroki's group is having a faster time than the others. Midnight pointed out. Aizawa replied, of course. He has an ice quirk and they have Uraraka, who can make the bots float, and Azui, who can use her tongue to help the bots down. I think that those two work great together in these situations. Snipe added. Due to the praise, both Azui and Uraraka sat up straighter while looking at each other with a proud smile. But the other groups are also doing a good job of acting in this situation. It also seems that Bakugo has his guard up. Maybe he is thinking that Discord will target him next. Of course, he was. You know, if I was in Bakugo's position, I would be too. All Might said, that might be so, since he is a threat because he is powerful and because he was the one to push Discord into becoming like this. Again, we're lucky that Discord didn't become reality, since those things really did happen. Ojiro stated as he glanced towards the said person who would have caused Discord to become real. You truly are fortunate. Beatrice said as she leaned into her hand. I wonder how the other events in this activity go, but I hope it is a good one. Nizu voiced. Present Mike whispered asked, since it was in the middle of the night, aren't you recording this whole event, Nizu? Yes, I am. I think I should tell Midoriya, I mean Discord, to turn it up a notch. What do you think? Nizu responded. Don't. Pleaded nearly every student in that space. Fine, but make sure that if you do, send all of the students to my office for sessions. Hound Dog announced. Just make sure that the students don't get hurt too badly. Demanded Recovery Girl. Nizu asked, so, are you all okay with it? Everyone in the room nodded and Nizu just smiled manically, while laughing. Okay, I will tell Discord when day 2 hits. Everyone on the room groaned. So, Midoriya took it up to the next level of cruel because Nizu had encouraged to do so. That sadistic principal of theirs really did like them to suffer, doesn't he? Are they still sure that their principal, who was running a school for heroes, isn't actually a villain who was trying to conduct world domination? At this point, if someone told them that he was, they would totally believe them, because it was clearly showing them that he liked to watch them suffer. Midoriya's POV, everything so far has gone as planned. I blew up 4 different places, far from each other to get the heroes split up, and I plan to kill off some more people to PSS off Katsuki a bit more. Is he saying that the ones he killed that night was because he only wanted to PSS of Bakugo? Mineta questioned, thinking back to the nervous Midoriya that would always try and not get into the angry blonde's way. Kurwaro chimed in. Give him some slack. If Bakugo really treated me like that, I would have done more than just PSS him off. Monoma nodded. I don't understand why that Broccoli would even want to be in the same class as him, or even in the same room, really. I would have made his life miserable and tell the teachers in UA about what he had done. That way, he wouldn't be able to become a hero. But Deku-kun isn't like that. Uraraka countered. That's what I'm saying. Monoma rolled his eyes as he crossed his arms. He's way too soft. Kendo sent a blank look at the copycat, along with everyone else in the room. Too soft, you say? Did he really say that he was too soft? He did. Confirmed Shiozaki. You're calling the person who taught us lessons and gave us nightmares in this activity, too soft. Are you crazy? Kendo countered to Monoma's statement. The blonde could only sweat drop remembering all the things in the activity. Okay, I mean other than this activity. He's too soft then. Aways raised a brow. Are you saying that you prefer the way he was in the Civil War activity, than his usual self? Right now, you're saying that you want Midoriya to act the same way he did on the screen, instead of the sunny, innocent being that he's been since the start of the year. The troublemaker of Class 1B gulped. Never mind. He can stay too soft. Yeah, that's for the better, for us or for the world. Both. For us and the world. I saw that the patrolling group split into groups by themselves, which I thought was stupid. They had the advantage in numbers, but they just gave that up, just to cover more ground. Idiots. Hey. We actually thought it would be a good idea, since there was only one villain in this activity. Kamakiri shouted in offense. We understand that, but you don't know what he was planning, therefore it would have been better if you stayed as a group or split into groups of 2. Vlad King explained. I guess, Kaminari then picked up in the last word said on the screen. For even nice Midoria to call you idiots, he must have really thought that idea was stupid. Koda only nodded. He, along with the others, still wondered if this was the same person as their sunny classmate that they have spent the whole year with. There were a lot of differences, but it was still Midoria, since who else would it be? I followed Kaibara and saw him walking around in an alleyway while yawning. He didn't look like he was really paying attention, since his eyes were foggy. Gee, who do I have to thank for that? Kaibara said with sarcasm dripping with every word. Vlad King shook his head. That may be so, but you should have tried to quickly wake up, because you don't know what's going to happen next. Kaibara sighed. Yes, sensei. I took that as my chance, but since I wanted it to be quick, silent and worth teaching. I snuck behind him and slit his throat, while covering his mouth, so he won't make a sound. Once I did, he turned around and saw me. It was still dark, so it made my eyes look like they were glowing in the dark. They were a toxic green and held bloodlust. Many shivered remembering those eyes. DMN man, that bloodlust. Tetsu commented. That really makes him seem like a real villain. I know, right? Kaibara weakly chuckled. That was scary. I don't blame you. I would have thought the same if I was in your shoes. Hananuki stated. And, I'm so glad I wasn't. At this point of time, Kaibara fell onto the ground and had his widened eyes stare at my toxic, glowing eyes. Kaibara backed away from me with fear in his eyes. I feel for you, dude. Awaze whispered underneath his breath for only Kaibara, who was sitting near him, to hear. Thanks. Kaibara muttered. I spoke while staring deep into his eyes, let a lesson be learnt. Never let your guard down. Right, got it. Rin said quickly. I'm never going to let me guard down again. Tsuburaba shoved him playfully. You know you don't have to keep your guard up all the time. Right. I know that. Rin replied. Then, just during an activity and work I will keep my guard up. Don't forget any situation that doesn't feel right. Their home group teacher added. That too. He hesitantly nodded his head while I turned my back on him and started to walk away. Ectoplasm will pick you up soon and please continue to learn lessons through the activity, in the room with other students. His eyes started to calm down and was about to say something, but before he said anything, I was gone. That was quick. Sato commented. Shoji nodded. Very quick. Next, I found Kamakiri walking through a park. Like Kaibara, he wasn't really patrolling careful and looked really tired, thanks to the stunt I pulled. At least he knows what consequences happen thanks to the stunt he pulled. Jiro sighed. Yeah, but they were all in his favor. Tokage groaned. Aoyama was just in the corner, still crying over his lose of beauty sleep, only for him to be eliminated when they were rescuing the civilian robots. I quickly dashed towards him with 25% of one for all and stabbed him in the heart. When I started my dash, he reacted and turned towards my direction, but I immediately brought my dagger into his heart. Once I did that, I hopped backwards and Kamakiri just looked down to where the paint caught him and back to me. He frowned and just laid down onto the ground since he was now dead. I went up to him to quickly grab my dagger, but while I was doing that, he spoke to me. That was not cool or fair. At least fight head on. The teachers groaned. Villains never play fair. All they want is to reach their goal and they would do anything to reach it. It doesn't matter who's in their way. They will try to eliminate them or kill them. Fair. Cool. Really. I am the villain in this activity, but he was talking about fairness. Seriously. Look, even Midoriya agrees. Aizawa pointed at the screen. I answered back while walking away with a glare, this world isn't fair or cool and villains couldn't care less. It was your fault for letting your guard down, but I applaud you for your quick reaction. He was speechless as I moved on to my new target, Bondo. Bondo started to cry crocodile tears, with one of his friends patting his back. Now it's my turn. Bondo was patrolling in an area near a school. I saw him sitting on a bench and looked like was having a little nap. A nap? Are you serious? Bondo, what were you thinking? This was being graded. You can't sleep on the job. Even I know better than that. I was tried, okay. Bondo screamed over everyone else. His home group only sighed. Bondo, just don't do that again. This is even worse than not keeping your guard up. You're sleeping in a situation where anyone could kill you. I understand, sensei. Bondo muttered his apologizes. This is stupid. I'm just going to kill him in his sleep. I totally agree with you, Midoriya. Ida nodded, but then added. But not the killing part. That's brutal, you know. Jiro said. Do you think this is where he gets the idea of killing some of us when we were sleeping? There was silence, but then everyone glared at Bondo. If it was, I'm never going to forgive you. Mina declared. Because of you, I lost sleep, and I was killed the second I woke up, when I finally did get some sleep. But this is Midoriya, and he already had the plans to do that anyway. Rin spoke up, feeling sorry for his classmate who was getting glared at. Aoyama asked. How do you know that? Rin shrugged. It probably will show on the screen, so watch to find out. I threw my pocket daggers that I was hiding in my suit at the sleeping hero. It hit his side and he woke up. Bondo looked at me a while I was walking away. I let him live but took his backup button when I was collecting my daggers. I let him live because it was only a matter of time of when he will bleed out to death, since not all villains immediately kill the hero when they get a chance. That's true. The hobo hero approved of all the lessons that his student was giving to his fellow classmates, as these could be real-life situations. The more they face now, the more prepared they would be when this does happen during their hero careers. The other heroes were helping and rescuing the bots and were far away. No one could help him. He was pretty much dead already. How cruel of you, Midoriya. Kanamari placed as over his forehead. How cruel of you. Really? Jiro asked while watching the human Pikachu being his normal dramatic self. He stared at me blankly as I ran across the city to find the last person on the patrolling team, Rin. Arg. Rin started to rub his head. Now it's my turn to be murdered. Kaibara patted his back. Hey, you can't complain. I was also killed. It happened to all of us, so we were going to die eventually. Rin sighed. Right. At least I was the last one killed on the patrol team. Hey. Kaibara, the first person to get killed on the patrol team, yelled in offense. Rin was near the east of the city, so I planned on getting rid of some people there as well. Of course you are. Aways deadpanned. After watching the activity for the third time, he could now say that Midoriya was an overkill. With all the kills he was doing left and right, nothing would change his mind on this matter. I quickly ran towards Rin, and since I could hear the panic from the civilian bots near the area, I just used my gun and shot him, since the other heroes won't be able to hear the gun because of all the crackling of the flames. With that, Rin was killed. Another one down. Someone muttered dejectedly. Discord. What are you trying to pull off with all of the bombs? Rin whispered, since he couldn't let his teammates know when he was dead. I crossed my arms and responded to his question, since you're dead and you can't tell your other teammates, I will tell you. Rin listened closely, trying to understand my thinking. Have you heard the quote, while the cat's away, the mice will play? I asked. He nodded in confusion. Well then, while the heroes are away from the HQ for their missions, I plan to do something with it. I continued with my smug grin on my face. The alarms. Tsunotori exclaimed in realization. He headed to the HQ to disable the alarms, allowing him to get into the building without being detected. He did that so he would be able to kill us when we were asleep. Kodai continued, realizing what was going on. Mina raised a brow. So, Midori already had an idea of killing us when we were sleeping, without Bondo's help. I guess so. Kirishima sighed. The pink-skinned teenager only puffed. If that's the case, then I can forgive Bondo, since it wasn't him who gave Midori the idea to kill me when I was sleeping and making me lose some sleep. Mina, can you just drop the losing sleep part now? Ojiro complained. We've heard about it a lot, and we get the point. The pink alien only replied with the same answer she had with Ida. Never. He seemed to understand, and I sighed. I better move on, so I walked away and headed towards the heroes in charge of putting out the fire for the east. I saw Shota, Suntory, Tsuburaba, Fukudashi, Tokage and Shiozaki. I thought of who would be a greater threat to me and decided to get rid of half of their team. Wow, just wow. Overkill much. They are not on guard and have no attention to anything else but the bots and the building. I'm not even going to talk about you guys not being on guard. Vlad King started. You should know that by now. His students only nodded their head. Yes, sensei. Moving on, you need to pay attention to all of your surroundings, not just the bots and the building. Ambushes could have happened, and it did. Vlad King dragged a hand down his face. Just learn for next time. I saw Shota, Suntory and Tsuburaba evocating the bots and the rest of the team running into the building. Once the retrieving team came down from the building with some civilian bots, I decided to get rid of Shota, since his twice impact would hurt Tokage, because it is troubling with all of her body parts separated to kill her, and Tsuburaba, since his quirk is solid air, and it could be an obstacle that I didn't want to do. Why thank you. Tokage said, happy that she was thought of a threat. He deemed her strong, which was why she was a threat, though she was just ignoring the part where it just said that her quirk was just troublesome. I threw a grenade at them, and it blew up, killing some bots and the targets, but there was a bonus. I ended up also eliminating Fukudashi. What the F, now that was overkill. Even though it wasn't planned, thank you for luck that I was able to escape being killed in my sleep. Dude, really? The civilian bots started to panic once again, but for the remaining heroes, they were also losing hope. They stood there, frozen by the deaths of their comrades, and didn't know what to do. How could they save the civilian bots in the building with 2 people? I pity you. I know. A lesson. Never give up hope. Aizawa stated. If the heroes don't have hope, then what about the civilians? We give them hope, but if we don't have it ourselves, they would also fall into despair. They were tired, I could see that. That was also why I planned to stay up for the whole activity. Aren't you tired, Midoriya? Because we definitely were. Kaminari asked the screen. Tokoyami looked at him like he was stupid. Kaminari, he can't answer. That's a screen. I know, but still. You're just talking to no one. Idiot. Jiro whispered. Now it was time to do my objective for the night. Are you telling us that just killing off like 8 people was just a side plan to his actual plan? No way. Well, his objective was to hack into our system, so he would be able to kill some of us in their sleep. Poor them. Maybe I should be glad I was eliminated before that happened. Me too.